McDonald's entered Japan in 1971. Their American consultants told them it would not work. Japanese consumers did not eat with their hands. Japanese consumers did not eat bread as a main course. Japanese consumers did not consume cold soft drinks at meals. Japanese consumers ate at small specialized restaurants where the chef prepared each dish individually. The American consultants explained in detail why McDonald's was structurally incompatible with Japanese food culture. Today, there are over 2,900 McDonald's restaurants in Japan. It is the second largest country market for the company. Japanese consumers eat at McDonald's at a per capita rate that rivals the United States. The American consultants were not wrong about Japanese food culture. They were wrong about something else. To understand what they were wrong about, you have to understand the Japanese partner who took McDonald's into the country. His name was Den Fujita. Fujita was a Japanese entrepreneur who had built a successful import business after the war. He had observed over 20 years how Japanese consumers responded to imported American products. He had a specific theory about why some American imports succeeded and others failed. Fujita's theory was that the American consultants were misunderstanding the actual question being asked. The consultants were asking whether Japanese consumers would adopt an American eating ritual in place of their existing eating rituals. The answer to that question was, as the consultants correctly identified, no. The Japanese were not going to abandon their existing food culture for American hamburgers. But Fujita argued that this was the wrong question. The right question was whether Japanese consumers, in specific situations and specific contexts, would adopt a new eating ritual that did not exist in their existing food culture. The answer to that question, Fujita believed, was potentially yes, but only if the new ritual was positioned correctly. The positioning Fujita chose was almost the opposite of how McDonald's was positioned in America. In America, McDonald's was positioned as a cheap, fast, casual family restaurant. The customer was the suburban household, eating in their car or at the orange and yellow plastic tables inside the restaurant. The brand was friendly, accessible, and unremarkable. Fujita's Japanese McDonald's was positioned as a glamorous, slightly aspirational, modern eating experience. The first Japanese McDonald's opened in the most expensive shopping district in Tokyo, on the ground floor of the most prestigious department store in the country. The Mitsukoshi store in Ginza had refused for decades to host fast food. Fujita personally negotiated the lease, and he did it by offering them extra favorable terms in exchange for the symbolic value of being there. The reason for the location was specific. Japanese consumers in 1971 associated the United States with sophistication and modernity. The Japanese economic miracle was in full swing. Tokyo was rebuilding itself as a world-class city. The most desirable cultural references for young Japanese consumers were American. Movies, music, clothing, language. American things were aspirational. Fujita positioned McDonald's as an American thing, not as an American family restaurant, as an American experience. Eating at McDonald's in 1971, Tokyo was, for a young Japanese person, a small piece of cultural cosplay. It was a way of participating briefly in American urban modernity. It was the same impulse that, in the same era, was driving Japanese teenagers to wear American jeans, listen to American rock music, and watch American movies. The hamburger itself was almost incidental. The hamburger was the prop. The actual product was the experience of being inside the American restaurant on the corner of the most fashionable shopping district in Tokyo. The actual product was, in marketing terms, an inexpensive piece of American culture that you could consume by walking inside, ordering, and eating. This is the part of the McDonald's Japan story that the American consultants completely missed. They were analyzing the product. Fujita was analyzing the context. The product was a hamburger. The context was American cultural aspiration. The Japanese market was not buying the product. The Japanese market was buying the context. The data supports this interpretation. The first Japanese McDonald's in Ginza did not initially attract families. It attracted teenagers and young adults. It attracted the same demographic that was buying American records and American jeans. The customers were not looking for cheap fast food. They were looking for a cheap form of American cultural identification. Fujita expanded carefully. The next stores were not, as McDonald's American playbook suggested, suburban locations near families. The next stores were also in prestigious urban districts: Shinjuku, Shibuya, Yokohama's main shopping street. Each location was chosen for its symbolic value to the target demographic. By the late 1970s, the Japanese market had stabilized around this positioning. McDonald's in Japan was a casual, slightly hip, slightly American experience that young people did with their friends. It was the place you went after school or before a movie. It was not, particularly, a place families went for dinner. This positioning shaped every other decision the Japanese operation made. The menu was adapted to fit the positioning, not the inverse. Items like the teriyaki McBurger were introduced not to make the food more Japanese, but to make the experience feel slightly localized for the local audience while preserving the underlying American character. The interior design was kept American. The uniforms were kept American. The signage was kept American. The Americanness was the product. Any localization that diluted it weakened the offering. It worked. McDonald's Japan grew steadily through the 1980s and 1990s. By 2001, when Fujita retired, the chain had over 3,500 locations and was one of the most successful international expansions in McDonald's history. There is a structural lesson buried in this story that applies far beyond fast food. When you take a product into a foreign market, the conventional analysis focuses on the product itself. Will the local consumer adopt this product? Will it fit local taste preferences? Will it work with local supply chains? These are the questions consulting firms ask, and they are the questions that the American consultants asked about McDonald's Japan. These questions are usually not the right questions. The right question is usually about the context the product is being placed inside. The product is, in most cases, a prop. The context is what the customer is actually buying. If you understand the context the local consumer is looking for, you can position your product to serve that context, even if the product itself is something the local market does not natively want. McDonald's served, in 1971 Tokyo, a context that did not exist in the United States. The context was inexpensive cultural cosplay. American McDonald's customers were not buying inexpensive cultural cosplay because, for an American, eating at McDonald's was not cosplay. It was just lunch. The same product served two completely different contexts in two countries. Both contexts produced enormous success. If you found this interesting, subscribe. We go deep on the stories of products that succeeded internationally by being positioned completely differently in each market. Drop your requests in the comments. Thanks for watching.